First contact fallout. The warning klaxons aboard the UES, defiant, cut through the silence of deep space like a knife, jolting Commander Alexis Shaw from her momentary calm. Her dark eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display, the blue glow illuminating her weathered face. "Report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline now coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Marcus Reed's fingers danced across the holographic interface, each movement precise and deliberate. "Unknown vessels, Commander. 7 of them, emerging from what appears to be a dimensional rift at coordinates 227 to 4319. Nothing like this in our database." The bridge of Earth's most advanced warship fell silent as the main view screen shifted to display what had triggered their alert systems. What they saw defied conventional understanding. Crystalline structures that seemed to phase in and out of reality, leaving ghostly trails as they moved in perfect synchronization. "Are they ships or something else?" asked Dr. Sophia Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her concern. "Whatever they are, they're heading directly for the Artemis colony," Reed replied, his voice tight. "Estimated arrival, 6 hours." Shaw's jaw clenched. Artemis was humanity's newest and most vulnerable outpost, home to over 5,000 civilians, including families with children. Earth had only recently gained provisional membership in the Galactic Conclave, and Artemis represented their farthest reach into the stars. A symbol of human determination to claim their place among the older species. "Send a priority alert to Conclave security," Shaw ordered. "Request immediate assistance." Communications Officer Ilara Voss shook her head, her expression grim. "Already tried, Commander. Our transmissions are being blocked or absorbed. Nothing's getting through." "What about the colony? Can we warn them?" "Negative. Same interference pattern." Shaw stood, moving closer to the view screen. The alien formations had changed their configuration, now forming what appeared to be a perfect hexagon. As she watched, energy pulses began to flow between the crystalline entities, building in intensity. "They're charging weapons," warned Reed. "You can't know that," Dr. Chen protested. "This could be their form of communication. We should attempt to." The view screen flared brilliantly as a concentrated beam of energy lanced out from the formation, slicing through the void toward a small research outpost that orbited the gas giant Callisto IV, 1,000 kilometers from the Defiant's position. In seconds, the outpost was gone, leaving nothing but superheated particles dispersing into space. 17 researchers, Voss whispered, her voice breaking. "Gone." Shaw's expression hardened. The Galactic Conclave had welcomed humanity with patronizing tolerance, treating them as primitive newcomers lucky to be granted a seat at the table of advanced civilizations. When Earth Fleet Intelligence had reported unusual energy signatures in this sector 3 weeks ago, the Conclave Council had dismissed their concerns as the paranoia of an inexperienced species. "They called us warmongering primitives," Shaw said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence on the bridge. "Said we were looking for threats where none existed because conflict is encoded in human DNA. Well, now we have proof." She returned to her command chair, her decision made. "Battle stations. Prepare the quantum disruption array." Reed turned from his station, concern evident in his expression. "Commander, we don't have authorization for direct engagement. The Conclave protocols explicitly forbid." "The Conclave isn't here, Lieutenant," Shaw interrupted. "We are. And if those things reach Artemis, what happened to that outpost will look like a mercy." The bridge crew exchanged glances, but no one voiced further objection. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing it might require difficult decisions. "Area," Shaw called out to the ship's advanced responsive intelligence array. "Analyze those entities. Find me a weakness." The AI's harmonious voice filled the bridge. "Analysis indicates the entities exist partially outside normal spacetime. Conventional weapons will likely prove ineffective. Recommend targeting the quantum entanglement patterns that appear to link them." Shaw nodded. The Defiant wasn't just any warship. It was humanity's answer to a galaxy that underestimated them, incorporating technologies that pushed the boundaries of what Earth's scientists understood. It was designed to adapt to unknown threats. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered. "We'll hit them before they know we're there." As the Defiant's stealth systems engaged, its hull shifting to absorb and redirect sensor scans, Shaw addressed her crew one final time before battle. "The Conclave thinks humans are dangerous because we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Today we proved them right on both counts. We're going to stop these things here, not because the Conclave asked us to, but because it's what humans do. We protect our own, and we don't back down from bullies, no matter how advanced they might be." The Defiant slipped silently toward the alien formation, carrying with it humanity's best hope of survival against a threat the galaxy hadn't prepared for. As they closed in, Shaw couldn't help but think that after today, the galaxy's perception of humans would never be the same. The battle begins. The Defiant moved with unnatural silence, its quantum engines leaving no traditional wake in space as it approached the alien formation. On the bridge, tension built with each passing second. The crystalline vessels grew larger on the view screen, their surfaces rippling with mirror-like patterns that pulsed with energy. "Those are definitely alive," Dr. Chen confirmed, her instruments recording terabytes of data. "The internal patterns suggest not just intelligence but consciousness. Conscious or not, they destroyed that outpost without provocation," Shaw replied. "That makes them a threat." Lieutenant Reed monitored the tactical display, his enhanced eyes tracking minute changes in the alien formation. "We're approaching optimal firing position. QD array at full charge." Shaw nodded, feeling the weight of command. This was the moment where humanity would either establish itself as a force capable of defending against an unknown threat or become another species that had reached too far, too fast. "RIA, initiate stealth protocols level 9, she ordered. The ship's AI responded immediately. "Stealth protocols engage. Quantum signature masked. Heat emissions redirected." The Defiant was now all but invisible to conventional detection methods, appearing as little more than a gravitational anomaly that might be dismissed as a passing asteroid or sensor ghost. As they slipped between two of the crystalline vessels, the view became overwhelming. Each alien structure dwarfed the human warship, their translucent surfaces revealing complex internal architectures that defied human understanding. "In position," Reed announced, tension evident in his normally calm voice. Shaw hesitated for just a moment. This was the point of no return. "Fire." The Defiant's quantum disruption array activated, generating cascading fields of chaotic quantum fluctuations that spread outward like ripples in a pond. When they reached the nearest crystalline vessel, the effect was immediate. The perfect synchronization of its neural patterns collapsed into disorder, energy pulses becoming erratic as the quantum entanglement linking it to the others temporarily shattered. "Direct hit," Reed called out. Target showing signs of systemic disruption. Before the crew could celebrate, the remaining alien vessels responded. Their crystalline structures began to reshape, adapting in real time to the attack. Energy beams lanced out from multiple points, not targeting the Defiant's vital systems, but focusing on its quantum disruption array with surgical precision. "They've identified our weapons system," Reed shouted as the ship shuddered under the assault. "Evasive maneuvers," Shaw commanded. "RIA, begin adaptive defense protocols." The Defiant twisted in space, its hull reconfiguring to absorb and redistribute the energy from the alien attacks. The AI's quantum processors worked at speeds no human mind could match, analyzing the enemy's tactics and developing countermeasures in microseconds. "QD array down to 67% capacity," reported Chief Engineer Takeda from Engineering. "They're using some kind of resonance field to target our systems specifically." Dr. Chen was frantically analyzing the data streaming from the damaged alien vessel. "Commander, I'm detecting a massive spike in quantum communications from the injured ship. It's broadcasting data on our weapons, our defenses, everything it learned from the attack. They're adapting, Shaw realized. Collective intelligence. One learns, all learn. She turned to tactical. Read, recalibrate the QD array. Random frequency shifts, no pattern they can predict. Working on it, but they're moving to surround us, Reed replied, his enhanced eyes tracking multiple threat vectors simultaneously. The bridge lighting flickered as another energy beam struck the ship. Status reports indicated damage throughout the vessel, though the automated repair systems were already addressing the worst of it. ARIA. Analysis of enemy attack patterns, Shaw demanded. The entities appear to be prioritizing containment over destruction, the AI reported. Tactical movements suggest intent to capture rather than eliminate. Shaw's eyes narrowed. They don't want to destroy us. They want to study us. A chill ran through the bridge crew at the implication. Commander, Reed suddenly announced, I'm detecting new energy signatures. Large-scale distortions forming at coordinates 115 to 8724. The view screen shifted to show a ripple forming in space, expanding into what appeared to be an artificial wormhole. Through it, they could see more crystalline vessels, dozens of them, each identical to those they were currently engaging. It's a call for reinforcements, Shaw realized, a knot forming in her stomach. They were bringing in their fleet. The odds, which had been slim to begin with, were now approaching impossible. The Defiant was an experimental warship with groundbreaking technology, but it wasn't designed to engage an entire alien armada. Options? Shaw asked, her voice steady despite the dire situation. QD array can't affect that many targets, Reed reported, and our conventional weapons aren't effective against their phase shifting. Commander, Dr. Chen said suddenly, her attention fixed on her data displays. I'm detecting a pattern in the quantum fluctuations of the damaged vessel. Its neural network is regenerating, adapting specifically to counter our attack. Shaw processed this information. They learned quickly, too quickly for a direct confrontation. She made her decision. Reed, plot a course for Artemis Colony, maximum speed. Retreat. Reed questioned, surprise evident in his voice. Not retreat, Shaw corrected. Strategic withdrawal. We can't win this fight, not directly, but we've learned valuable information about our enemy, and we need to get that information to where it can make a difference. As the Defiant disengaged from combat, using a brief burst from its quantum disruption array to cover its escape, the crystalline vessels pursued with an efficiency that confirmed Shaw's suspicions. These weren't random predators. This was a sophisticated invasion force with technology far beyond what the Galactic Conclave had encountered before. They're following us, Reed confirmed, watching the tactical display. Good, Shaw said, her expression grim but determined. Now we know where they're going, and we can prepare accordingly. The Defiant accelerated to quantum velocity, temporarily outpacing their pursuers, but Commander Shaw knew this was just the beginning of what would become humanity's most significant challenge since joining the galactic community. The Conclave had dismissed human concerns as the paranoia of newcomers. Now humanity would have to save not only itself, but possibly the entire Conclave from a threat it had refused to acknowledge. Desperate measures. The emergency evacuation of Artemis Colony proceeded with controlled chaos as Commander Shaw directed operations from the Defiant's command center. Civilian transports launched in rapid succession, escorted by the colony's small defensive fleet, mostly retrofitted mining vessels never designed for combat. Last transport clearing the atmosphere, reported Lieutenant Reed, tracking the evacuation progress. Estimated 4,000 civilians safely away. And the remaining 1,000? Shaw asked, already knowing the answer. Reed's expression tightened, still in the deep mining sectors. The emergency protocols triggered the automatic lockdown of the lower levels. Teams are working to override, but we're out of time, Shaw finished for him, watching the tactical display where the crystalline fleet had emerged from quantum space, now forming a blockade around Artemis. Dr. Chen approached with a data tablet. Commander, I've completed my analysis of the damaged entity we encountered. They're unlike anything in Conclave records, biomechanical organisms with collective consciousness. The crystalline structures serve as both body and ship. Weaknesses? Shaw asked directly. They rely on quantum entanglement for their group coordination. When we disrupted that connection, the affected entity experienced significant confusion. If we could disrupt the entire fleet simultaneously. Shaw turned to Chief Engineer Takeda. The KD array wasn't designed for wide-field deployment. Could we modify it? The engineer's face creased in thought. Not with our current power constraints. But he paused, glancing toward the planet below. The colony's geothermal power plant was recently upgraded with quantum stabilizers. If we could link our systems to it, we might generate a field large enough to affect the entire fleet. That would require someone to be on the surface to make the connection, Reed pointed out. Shaw nodded. I'm aware. Araya, prepare a shuttle. I'll leave the ground team myself. The protest from her officers was immediate and vociferous. Commander, with respect. Reed began. Regulations clearly state. Regulations weren't written for this scenario, Lieutenant. Shaw cut him off. I designed the KD array. I understand its limitations and possibilities better than anyone on this ship. This isn't open for debate. 30 minutes later, Shaw stood in the shuttle bay with a small team of volunteers, Chief Engineer Takeda, Dr. Chen, and 2 security specialists. Each wore combat exoskeletons designed for enhanced strength and protection in hostile environments. The colony is currently in geosynchronous shadow, Reed explained from the bridge. We'll create a diversion on the opposite side, drawing as many of the crystalline entities away as possible. That should give you a narrow window to reach the surface undetected. Shaw nodded, checking her equipment one final time. Araya will maintain command of the Defiant in my absence. Your orders are clear. Protect the evacuation fleet at all costs. If we haven't returned in 3 hours, assume the mission failed and withdraw to rendezvous with Earth Fleet. Reed's voice was tight with emotion. Understood, Commander. Good hunting. The shuttle dropped from the Defiant like a stone, running dark with minimal power to avoid detection. Above them, the warship accelerated toward the far side of the planet, weapons blazing as it engaged a portion of the alien fleet. They've taken the bait, Takeda observed as several crystalline entities broke formation to pursue the Defiant. The shuttle entered Artemis's atmosphere at a steep angle, using the planet's magnetic field to mask their approach. The colony came into view, a sprawling complex of habitation domes and industrial structures built into the side of a massive crater. Already, Shaw could see signs of the alien presence. Several crystalline entities had landed near the main power facility, their structures pulsing with energy as they interfaced with the colony systems. They're accessing our database, Dr. Chen realized, reading sensor data, learning about us, our technology, our biology. Not for long. Shaw muttered as the shuttle touched down in a maintenance bay 2 kilometers from their target. The team moved swiftly through the deserted corridors of the colony, the eerie silence broken only by the occasional distant sound of structural metal groaning under stress. Life signs ahead, warned one of the security specialists, checking his scanner. Humanoid, but altered. They rounded a corner to find a colonist standing motionless, staring blankly at a wall. As they approached, the person turned, revealing crystalline growths emerging from their skin, eyes glowing with the same pulsing energy as the alien entities. They're converting people, Dr. Chen whispered in horror, using them as biological interfaces to better understand human systems. Before anyone could respond, the transformed colonist opened their mouth, emitting a high-pitched signal that made the team's communication devices screech with feedback. They know we're here, Shaw realized. Move. The team sprinted through the colony, encountering more transformed colonists who made no attempt to physically stop them but continued broadcasting their presence. Upon reaching the geothermal plant, they found it guarded by one of the smaller crystalline entities, its structure integrated directly into the facility's power core. It's siphoning energy, Takeda explained, checking the facility's diagnostics. And knowledge. The quantum stabilizers contain experimental data on human understanding of space-time. Shaw assessed the situation quickly. We need to disconnect it from the core, then reconfigure the stabilizers to connect with the Defiant's key array. And how exactly do we disconnect an alien entity that exists partially outside our reality? Takeda asked. Shaw unholstered a device from her exoskeleton, a handheld version of the quantum disruption technology. The same way we affected the larger one. We break its cohesion, even temporarily. She activated her comm. Read, status report. The lieutenant's voice came through, overlaid with static. The diversion is working, but not for long. These things are smart. They are beginning to recognize the pattern of our attacks. I estimate you have 15 minutes before they realize our true plan. That'll have to be enough, Shaw replied. On my mark, bring the Defiant into low orbit directly above our position. Be ready to activate the key array at full power when I give the signal. Shaw nodded to her team, and together they moved into position. The security specialists deployed portable shield generators to create a protected work zone, while Takeda prepared to access the power systems. Shaw raised the disruption device, aiming it at the crystalline entity. Let's see how you like being disconnected, she muttered, and fired. The effect was instantaneous, the entity's perfect structure distorted, its connection to the power core wavering as quantum disruption cascaded through its form. It emitted a sound unlike anything the team had heard before, not quite mechanical, not quite organic, but a haunting synthesis of both that resonated on a cellular level. Now, Shaw shouted. Takeda moved with practiced efficiency, disconnecting the alien interface and beginning the process of reconfiguring the quantum stabilizers. Dr. Chen assisted, her expertise in xenobiology providing insight into how the alien had integrated with the human technology. We have a problem, Takeda announced after several tense minutes. The power requirements for a planet-wide disruption field exceed safety parameters. The only way to generate enough energy would be to trigger a controlled overload of the core, which would destroy the facility, Shaw concluded. And everything within a 5-kilometer radius, Takeda confirmed grimly. Shaw made her decision without hesitation. Do it. Read, evacuation status. Last transports are clear of the atmosphere. Orbital defense platforms have been activated to provide cover. The aliens are beginning to regroup. Something's changed in their behavior pattern. They're becoming desperate, Dr. Chen suggested, monitoring the alien entity as it struggled to reform. They sense what we're planning. A high-pitched wail suddenly emanated from the entity, different from before, more urgent, more powerful. In response, the colony's structure began to vibrate as if resonating with the sound. They're calling the others back, Shaw realized. We're out of time. Turning the tide. The air in the geothermal plant grew heavy with tension as Takeda worked to finalize the overload sequence. Outside, the sky darkened with the return of the crystalline fleet, their formations tightening around the colony like a noose. Core overload in 3 minutes, Takeda announced, his fingers flying across the control interface. I've routed the quantum stabilizers to create a feedback loop. When the core detonates, it should amplify the disruptive field exponentially. Shaw nodded, her face illuminated by the pulsing emergency lights. Read, status on the Defiant. In position, Commander, came the reply, punctuated by static. QD array primed and ready for synchronization. The moment you detect the energy spike from our location, activate the array at full capacity. The combined effect should create a disruption field powerful enough to sever the quantum entanglement across the entire fleet. And after that? Reed asked, the unspoken question hanging between them. Shaw looked at her team. Brave humans fighting against an incomprehensible threat, not because they were ordered to, but because it was the right thing to do. After that, you finish what we started. These things came to our world thinking we'd be easy prey. Show them how wrong they were. The crystalline entity they had temporarily disabled was beginning to reform, its structure adapting to resist their disruption technology. Dr. Chen continued to record data, her scientific curiosity undimmed even in the face of danger. "Commander," she said, pointing to her readings, "I'm detecting a change in the quantum signature. It's as if the entity is trying to communicate. Now it wants to talk." Shaw replied skeptically, "After destroying our outpost and attacking our colony." "Not exactly communication as we understand it," Chen clarified. "More like, it's trying to understand what we're doing. I think they're genuinely surprised by our resistance." Shaw's expression hardened. The conclave told us humanity was too aggressive, too prone to seeing threats where none existed. But they were wrong. We're not aggressive. We're protective. And right now, that's exactly what the galaxy needs. The facility trembled as more crystalline entities landed on the colony's surface, their immense structures creating localized gravitational distortions. 2 minutes to core overload, Takeda warned. "Once I initiate the final sequence, there's no stopping it." Shaw made a decision. "Everyone back to the shuttle. I'll stay to ensure the sequence completes." "Commander," began one of the security specialists. "That's an order," Shaw cut him off. "The shuttle needs a pilot, and Takeda is the only one who can calibrate the KD array on the Defiant when you return. Dr. Chen's data is critical. It needs to reach Earth Fleet." "And you?" Chen asked quietly. Shaw offered a grim smile. "Someone needs to make sure our visitors don't interfere with the overload. Besides, the conclave needs to understand what happened here, why humans choose to fight when others might surrender. They need to know what we're willing to sacrifice to protect our own." Reluctantly, the team gathered their equipment, preparing to leave. Shaw handed Chen her personal data device. "Everything I've learned about these entities, everything I've observed, it's all here. Make sure Admiral Rice gets it." Chen took the device, understanding its significance. "Your sister will be proud, Commander." Shaw nodded once, then turned back to the controls. 1 minute 30 seconds. Get moving. As the team departed, Shaw established a direct channel to the Defiant. "AI, access command protocols, Shaw Alpha 719. Transfer all tactical control of the Defiant to Lieutenant Reed effective immediately." "Command transfer acknowledged," the AI responded. "It has been an honor serving with you, Commander Shaw." "Likewise, ARIA. Take care of them." Outside, the shuttle launched, immediately engaging evasive maneuvers as it climbed through the atmosphere. Several crystalline entities moved to intercept, but the Defiant intervened, its weapons creating a corridor through which the smaller craft could escape. Alone in the facility, Shaw watched the countdown timer with calm acceptance. The walls around her began to crystallize as the aliens attempted to assimilate the structure, sensing the danger but not fully comprehending it. "Reed," she said into her comm, "remember what I told you when we first set out on this mission. Humanity doesn't just survive, we prevail." Reed quoted back, emotion evident in his voice. "Exactly. No matter what happens today, make sure they understand that." The facility's doors suddenly burst inward as a massive crystalline formation pushed through, its structure reconfiguring to adapt to the confined space. At its center, Shaw could see what appeared to be a nucleus, a concentration of energy that pulsed with intelligence and purpose. 30 seconds to overload, Takeda's automated voice announced over the facility's speakers. The crystalline entity paused, its form shifting as if in contemplation. Then, to Shaw's surprise, it began to withdraw, its structure flowing back toward the exit. "They understand," she realized. "They know what's about to happen." But instead of escaping, the entity's form changed again, expanding to create a crystalline shell around the core reactor, containing it. "They're trying to suppress the explosion," Shaw understood with sudden clarity. She activated her handheld disruption device one final time, aiming it directly at the entity's nucleus. Not today. The quantum disruption hit the entity at its most vulnerable point, shattering its cohesion at the exact moment the core reached critical mass. The combined energies created a cascade effect that amplified beyond even what Takeda had calculated. Aboard the Defiant, Reed watched in awe as a sphere of pure quantum disruption expanded from the colony's surface, washing over the crystalline fleet like a tsunami. One by one, their perfect formations collapsed, the quantum entanglement that bound them together severed completely. QD array at maximum output, reported the weapons officer. Synchronized with the ground detonation. The effect was more devastating than they had anticipated. Without their collective consciousness, the crystalline entities didn't simply become disorganized. They began to dissolve, their complex structures unable to maintain cohesion without the quantum links that define them. They're not just individual entities, Dr. Chen realized, watching from the shuttle as it docked with the Defiant. They're fragments of a single consciousness. Without the network connecting them, they can't exist. Reed finished, understanding the full magnitude of what Shaw had accomplished. The view screen showed the crystalline fleet in full retreat, the surviving entities fleeing through the same spatial rifts they had arrived through. Where hundreds had surrounded Artemis, now only dozens remained, and those were rapidly dispersing. She did it, Takeda said quietly. She found their weakness. Reed nodded, feeling both triumph and loss. Set course for Earth. The Conclave needs to know what happened here, what humans are capable of when pushed. And Commander Shaw? Asked one of the bridge officers. Reed looked at the fading quantum disruption field that had engulfed the colony. Commander Shaw just showed the galaxy that humans aren't just another species to be patronized or dismissed. We're the ones who stand and fight when others retreat. We're the ones who find a way when others see none. He straightened his uniform, assuming the mantle of command with newfound resolve. And after today, the galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again. Echoes of sacrifice. The Defiant's return to Earth carried none of the triumph normally associated with victory. As the ship docked at Orbital Command Station Alpha, the surviving crew stood at attention, honoring not just Commander Shaw's sacrifice, but the thousands of lives lost at Artemis Colony. Admiral Rice, head of Earth Fleet Command and Commander Shaw's sister, waited in the docking bay, her face a mask of professional composure belying the personal grief she must have felt. Beside her stood representatives from the Galactic Conclave, tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin who regarded the human vessel with newfound respect. Lieutenant Reed, now acting commander, led the procession down the gangway, carrying a data core containing everything they had learned about the crystalline entities, officially designated as the Collective in Earth Fleet records. Lieutenant Reed, Admiral Reyes greeted him formally, though her eyes conveyed deeper emotions. Earth welcomes the return of the Defiant and honors the sacrifice made at Artemis. Reed saluted crisply. Thank you, Admiral. The crew performed admirably under extraordinary circumstances. The Conclave representatives stepped forward, their movements fluid and graceful. The tallest among them, wearing the insignia of a High Counselor, addressed Reed directly. The Conclave acknowledges its error in dismissing human concerns regarding anomalous energy signatures in the Artemis sector. The alien said, its voice melodic, but emotionless. Your species' actions, while unorthodox by Conclave standards, have revealed a threat previously unknown to our collective security. Reed struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure. With respect, Counselor, unorthodox actions saved not just humanity, but potentially the entire Conclave. The Collective was studying us, learning our weaknesses before a full-scale invasion. Indeed, the Counselor agreed, surprising Reed. Our preliminary analysis of the data you transmitted suggests these entities have encountered and assimilated other civilizations before. Your Commander Shaw's decisive action prevented what might have been catastrophic for all spacefaring species. Admiral Rice gestured toward a secure conference room. We have much to discuss. The full Earth Fleet Council awaits your debriefing. As they walked, Dr. Chen fell into step beside Reed. They're being surprisingly accommodating, she whispered. The conclave rarely admits to mistakes. Fear is a powerful motivator, Reed replied quietly. We just showed them something they didn't think existed, a threat their advanced civilization couldn't detect but humanity could stop. The debriefing lasted hours as Reed, Chen, and Takeda recounted every detail of their encounter with the collective. Earth fleet commanders asked pointed questions about the entity's capabilities and weaknesses, while the conclave representatives occasionally interjected with observations that revealed their own incomplete understanding of the threat. Based on Commander Shaw's final analysis, Reed explained, displaying tactical data on the conference room's holographic projector. We believe the collective exists primarily as a quantum-entangled consciousness that manifests physically through these crystalline structures. When we disrupted the quantum entanglement at Artemis, we didn't just defeat them, we fractured their very being. But not permanently, Dr. Chen added. The surviving entities retreated rather than being destroyed completely. They're learning, adapting, and they now understand humans represent a significant threat to their existence. Admiral Rice leaned forward. Your assessment, Lieutenant. Will they return? Reed met her gaze unflinchingly. Without question, Admiral. We hurt them, but we also taught them to fear us. They'll regroup, adapt their approach, and try again, but differently next time. Then we must prepare, Rice concluded. She turned to the conclave representatives. Earth formally requests full membership in the Galactic Conclave, with all associated privileges, including access to advanced defensive technologies and participation in joint security operations. The counselor's expression remained impassive, but its skin color shifted subtly, a sign of internal conflict. Reed had learned during diplomatic training. Such an acceleration of your species' integration is unprecedented, the alien stated. So is the threat we now face together, Rice countered. Humanity proved its value when we stood alone against the collective. Imagine what we could accomplish with the full support of the conclave. After a moment of silent communion with its colleagues, the counselor inclined its head. Your request will be granted. The emergency session of the Grand Conclave will convene in 7 standard cycles to formalize humanity's full membership and coordinate our response to this new threat. As the meeting concluded, Reed found himself standing before a viewport overlooking Earth. The blue-green jewel that had spawned his species, now just one world among many in humanity's expanding presence among the stars. Admiral Rice joined him, her official demeanor softening slightly. Alexis would be proud of you, Marcus. She always said you were destined for command. Reed shook his head. I'm not sure I want it. Not like this. She should be here, seeing what she accomplished. In a way, she is, Rice replied, glancing toward the conclave representatives as they departed. For the first time since we joined the galactic community, they're looking at us as equals, not as primitive curiosities. That wouldn't have happened without her sacrifice. The crew wants to hold a memorial service, Reed said, not just for Commander Shaw, but for everyone at Artemis. Rice nodded. I'll attend personally, but first, we have work to do. The Defiant needs repairs and upgrades based on what you learned about the collective. And you. She paused, studying him carefully. Need to prepare for your next mission. Reed frowned. The Defiant is getting a new commander. No, Lieutenant. The Defiant is getting its current commander promoted, Rice clarified, producing a small box containing commander's insignia. Battlefield Commission, effective immediately. The Conclave may have finally recognized our worth, but I have a feeling they still don't fully understand what humanity brings to the table. And what's that, Admiral? Rice's expression grew solemn. What Commander Shaw demonstrated perfectly. We don't just fight when there's a chance of winning. We fight when it's right, even when victory seems impossible. That's what makes humans dangerous, and that's what will keep the galaxy safe from threats like the collective. Reed accepted the insignia, feeling its weight both physically and symbolically. What exactly is my next mission? The Conclave has provided coordinates for another world they believe may have encountered the Collective, a colony that went silent 3 cycles ago. They dismissed it as a natural disaster at the time. And now they want humanity's perspective, Rise said with the ghost of a smile. It seems we've developed quite the reputation for finding threats that others miss. As Reed prepared to return to the Defiant with his new rank and mission, he paused at the memorial wall near the docking bay, a simple black surface where the names of those lost in service were displayed in glowing script. Commander Alexis Shaw's name had already been added, alongside the thousands from Artemis Colony. He placed his hand against the cool surface, a gesture of respect and promise. We'll finish what you started, Commander. The galaxy will remember your name, not